miles away, right into the heart of this heavily guarded haven. First, they tapped into Allied satellite intelligence. Using precise coordinate mapping, they were able to pinpoint the exact locations of Russia's fierce anti-air defense networks to find the blind spots. Next, they deployed a drone specifically programmed to fly incredibly low, practically skimming the water's surface to stay entirely off the radar. Once it slipped into the Caspian Sea, the Ukrainian drone went on the hunt. It homed in on its target, slamming directly into an Iranian ship and blowing it to pieces. So how exactly did the Caspian Sea become the ultimate secretive safe route for Russia and Iran? Well, it sits in a massive basin right on the border between Europe and Asia. It is surrounded by exactly 5 countries: Russia to the northwest, Iran to the south, Azerbaijan to the west, Kazakhstan to the northeast, and Turkmenistan to the southeast, while Ukraine and Europe is almost 800 miles away. Because there is no natural outlet to the world's oceans like the Atlantic or the Indian Ocean, the water level is sustained almost entirely by the rivers that flow into it, most notably Russia's massive Volga River in the north. If you are a ship in the Caspian Sea, you cannot sail to anywhere else in the world. You are confined to those waters. While the Caspian is disconnected from the ocean naturally, Russia engineered an artificial exit for itself during the Soviet era. The Volga-Don Canal is a 101-kilometer waterway that connects the Caspian Sea via the Volga River to the Sea of Azov and the Black Sea. It allows Moscow to move smaller warships, patrol boats, and supply vessels from the completely secure waters of the Caspian directly into the active war zone around Ukraine. Because the canal runs entirely through internal Russian territory, they can move this military hardware without exposing it to the open ocean or foreign tracking. To move thousands of drones, artillery shells, and missile components without interference, Russia and Iran rely on a few key tactics: dark fleets and disabled tracking. Iranian and Russian cargo
that's what they're saying, right?
Turn off their
The boat that the ship that they hit must have had drones on them.
By going dark, these ships become
not
ghosts
that Russia
on
can't
international
produce
tracking
these drones
routes.
at a high rate anyway, right?
The Volga River and Canal Network. Once Iranian ships dock in northern Caspian ports like Astrakhan, the weapons are offloaded and moved up the Volga River. Russia uses the Volga-Don Canal to move these supplies internally all the way to the Sea of Azov and the Black Sea, directly supplying the front lines in Ukraine without ever leaving Russian-controlled territory. But how did Ukraine hit a cargo ship when itself is 800 miles away? To pull off a strike over 1,000 kilometers away in the landlocked Caspian Sea, Ukraine had to completely rewrite the rules of long-range engagement. With absolutely no naval access to those waters, they had to rely one-way attack drones. They used custom-built systems like the Ludi strike drone and even converted Aeroproct, a 22 ultralight aircraft. These machines were specifically engineered to bridge massive distances, capable of flying autonomously for 1,500 kilometers, while carrying heavy explosive payloads. To avoid electronic warfare and signal jamming, these drones didn't rely on active remote piloting. Instead, they were pre-programmed with precise GPS waypoints, flying silently and autonomously toward their target. But having the range was only half the battle. To reach the Caspian Sea, these drones had to survive flying over massive stretches of highly defended southern Russian airspace. Before launching, Ukrainian intelligence meticulously mapped out the blind spots in Russian air defense networks, charting a path through Panzer and S-400 missile batteries. The drones were programmed to skim the terrain at extremely low altitudes, flying beneath the horizon line of long-range Russian radars to remain virtually invisible. To ensure the main strike force made it through, Ukraine launched a vanguard of cheaper decoy drones ahead of them. These swarms deliberately triggered Russian air defenses.
Oh, they really wanted to hit this Iranian ship then,
waste their ammunition, so the primary drones could slip past during the chaos of the reload. Once over the Caspian, the final challenge was finding the target. Iranian cargo vessels frequently turn off their tracking transponders to become ghosts on international monitors, but they cannot hide from real-time satellite imagery. On July 25, 2026, the hunters acted on those coordinates. A Ukrainian attack drone skimmed dangerously low over the waves, flying blind under strict radio silence, trusting entirely in the math provided by Allied intelligence. Miles out, the drone popped up. Its terminal guidance systems roared to life, snapping its crosshairs onto a massive silhouette emerging from the sea haze. The onboard AI confirmed the target, the Anna, also known as the Port Olia 2. There were no evasive maneuvers, no anti-aircraft fire. Just a direct, unblinking lock-on as the drone began its fatal
I don't think anybody has Navy destroyers in that ocean.
Dive. The strike was absolute.
Like the
Traveling
U.S.
at
does.
high speed, the drone slammed
everywhere
into
the
the
U.S.
steel
Navy
superstructure,
goes.
detonating a 50-kilogram, 110-pound high-explosive warhead. In a fraction of a millisecond, a devastating overpressure blast and a cloud of superheated shrapnel ripped outward across tens of meters. The immense thermal spike instantly ignited the ship's vital systems. What began as a stealthy transit across the ocean ended in catastrophic, uncontrollable structural fires, leaving the vessel dead in the water and burning in the dark. So how exactly did the Ukrainians manage to get past the anti-air defenses? The drones launched from Ukrainian territory under the cover of clouds, originating from several staging areas near the Ukrainian-Russian border. Ukraine's strategy was designed to completely overwhelm the Russian anti-air defense system. The trick here is to launch multiple attack fixed-wing drones, frequently rounded up to 1,000, along with about multiple cruise missiles. Flying at a low altitude and programmed to follow the terrain's contours, the lead elements entered Russian airspace, threading their way through the outer defense cordons. As for how far they traveled, Moscow lies roughly 460 to 750 kilometers from Ukraine's eastern front lines and upwards of 1,000 kilometers from launch points in central Ukraine. These distances put the capital comfortably within the operational radius of the drones. We know that Russia possesses some of the best anti-air defenses in the world, like the S-400 and Panzer systems. Working together, the S-400 destroyed most of the incoming cruise missiles, but the Panzer had to do the heavy lifting against the drone swarm. Its onboard computer calculates the target's trajectory and commands the launch of solid-fuel missiles for long-range interception, followed by rapid bursts from dual 30mm autocannons to destroy anything that gets too close.
Man, technology.
Together, these defenses can take down 500 drones in 2 hours, with about a couple hundred of those shot down as they approach Moscow. In just one night, Ukraine struck more than a dozen Russian regions simultaneously, stretching from Rostov in the south to the Moscow Ring in the center. But what was the secret drone that managed to bypass one of the best air defense networks in the world? For years, Ukraine had been developing the Fury long-range drone. The primary platform was the AN-196 Lubio, a $40,000 tailprop drone developed by Ukraine's Antonov Aerospace firm and associated manufacturer.
They spent $40,000 in the United States. If this would have been built by the U.S., it would have been $40 million.
Roughly the size of a single-engine trainer aircraft, its terrain-following capability is what makes it operationally decisive. Rather than flying a predictable altitude profile that is easily tracked by radar, the Lubio hugs the Earth. It follows rivers, valleys, and tree lines, threading through gaps in radar coverage like a ghost. The Lubio is assembled, armed, programmed, and takes off like an airplane from a regular stretch of road or an airstrip. The launch team then quickly disperses before Russian forces can counterstrike the site. These launches are carefully
coordinated. This is also why we need AI.
Drones enter Russian airspace
to do war
Here's
better.
Exactly how it can hit Russian targets. As the
we got tired of our drone pilots,
if at least one of the
offing
munitions
themselves
made
later.
A direct terminal dive into
So we
the
just
heart
let
of the
AI
facility,
do the job now.
specifically targeting the bulk fuel storage and distillation infrastructure. It carries a warhead weighing 50 kilogram or 110 pounds. This is how the drone's explosive payload detonated upon impact. With this heavy steel exterior for a massive fuel storage tank, instantly igniting the highly pressurized and volatile hydrocarbons toward inside. The fire rapidly expanded inside the enclosed space, creating an immense localized pressure spike that the structure simply was not built to contain. The explosive shockwave violently sheared the welded seams connecting the tank's walls to its roof. The sheer kinetic force of this blast can cause a secondary explosion, thereby creating a chain reaction. For more original videos, check out the links here.
Yeah, fantastic work, everybody. I'm sure this is gonna go great. This is the war. The war is expanding. Are we tired yet? Americans want out.
The war in Iran is very unpopular here in the United States, like historically unpopular. 27% approval. That is crazy low. And I know this type of thing is quickly written off as a partisan issue, but it's not, at least not anymore. Even Fox News.
Yeah, hold
is
on.
Now showing how...
I think Prem had something on that, right? And duplicate this. Prem. There he is. Where was the piece? Posted it. Here it is. New poll: Americans believe that. This is Netanyahu. Never mind. I thought they did a poll for Iran. Either way, arrest Netanyahu.
How few Americans are on board with this war. Now, look, I know this isn't my normal content. I generally focus a lot more on the operational side of war and conflict, but with how skewed the support for this war has become, it's really fallen off a cliff in recent weeks. I felt like ignoring public sentiment right now would just be boxing us in and kind of creating a blind spot as we try to assess what President Trump has in terms of options available to him moving forward. And by most accounts, that's where the president and his team is right now, trying to figure out what to do next to bring about a viable end to this conflict. Politico, in an article yesterday, quoted an anonymous source, so keep that in mind, that said, quote, "The White House is at a maximum level of frustration right now. The source says they were told by very senior people that the president is now fully aware that the only way to the victory that he wants is completely politically impossible. The American people will just not support the kind of escalation it would take at this point." They ended by saying, "We've got more dead Americans and a politically impossible situation."
Yeah, well, now, what they did since then is they reallocated the deaths of said Americans so that, we can't complain because those deaths don't count. Actually, they happened in like overseas encounters or whatever they're calling them. Not they don't tally them towards Operation Epic Fury.
Generally speaking, when you hear that, what they're referring to is we would need boots on the ground or holding some sort of territory in Iran or really, really, really ramping up the war or expecting significant, price increases or shortages even at the pump to get to the point where Iran would concede at the negotiating table. So that's the idea of, does the American people have the stomach for continuing this war and really ramping it up? That Political article suggests no, it's not politically viable. And that does kind of line up with what we're seeing in poll after poll after poll. And we've got 3 different sources here. All of these will be linked in the description below if you want to dig into them further. I understand no poll is perfect, but if we look at the trends, what we are seeing is overwhelming lack of support for the continuation of this war. The first one here came from The Economist just a few days ago, where they said the Iran war is the least popular since modern polling began. They note that net approval for Mr. Trump's decision to attack Iran now stands at minus 30% among Americans, noting that the war in Vietnam took 6 years to become as reviled as the Iran war has become in 6 months. Now, we'll put the poll up here on the screen, the results that the Economist laid out, and they do have a couple different things here broken out that I think are interesting. So overall, it shows that 57% of polling of the respondents said the war was the wrong decision, with just 27% saying it was the right move. Now, as expected, we are seeing a partisan divide here. More Democrats,
not even all of Republicans, support, but this is like 95% of Democrats, and then like 87% of independents are not for the war, and then you got 63% of Republicans, which is not that is the majority, but it's not an overwhelming majority like 95%.
Notable is that the independent voters overwhelmingly view it as the wrong move, 65% to 13%. When we've got these elections every year that are like pretty well split right down the middle, the independent vote is becoming more and more important. I'm not a political scientist. This isn't my wheelhouse, but that seems to be an area that both sides are very focused on winning over. Right now, the Iran war, very unpopular with independent voters. They also break it out into MAGA versus non-MAGA Republicans, and I was not expecting this much of a divide. I don't think you see this on a lot of other issues, but the Republican breakout here shows that 77% of MAGA Republicans view the Iran war as the right move, compared with just 31% of non-MAGA Republicans. That is a much larger divide than I expected, but it does kind of speak to what we're seeing in some of these other polls. Politico, that same article I quoted a minute ago,
MAGA is 100% on board.
Says a new poll
basically
shows that Trump voters are losing patience with the Iran war. They say half of President Trump's MAGA base thought a war with Iran was worth its economic costs in May. Now, just a little more than a third do. That
but they're still on board with it. What the
drop
fuck?
in just 2 months, according to a new Politico poll, reveals how the president's most diehard supporters are starting to agree with the majority of Americans who have long opposed the U.S. involvement in the war. Additionally, 37% of self-identified MAGA Trump voters say the United States should continue its involvement only if it does not increase costs, up from 29% who said the same in May. That's what we're seeing in one poll after another, every one of these groups shifting from support or some degree of support into more of a camp of not supporting the war or limitations on how much they're willing to do here. Again, when you're talking about the political viability of what comes next, boots on the ground, taking territory, a lot of things that could increase the likelihood of U.S. casualties and directly increase the cost of living here in the United States. We're seeing more and more people say none of that is worth it for what's going on in Iran right now. Fox News as well talked to this recently. A new poll that just came out from July 17th to July 20th. We're recording this on the 23rd, so it is a very recent poll. They have 66% disapprove of the way that Trump is handling the war in Iran, with only 34% approval. Both of those are records. To stick with the theme here, that these are trends in these directions, 66% is the highest number of disapproval since Fox started this polling. 34% is the lowest number approving since this polling began. And overall, we have to assume that this limits the options available to President Trump. When you have 1 in 4 Americans on board with anything,
it's what Lindsey would have wanted, though.
That the lawmakers that represent
we can't disappoint them.
It's going to hit a wall, and they're going to kind of
shift
to self-preservation mode and maybe vote to try to stay in power as opposed to just what the president wants. Maybe. I don't know. It seems like our country's in a weird spot, has been for a while. Now, the midterms are coming up here in a few months, so this is the kind of thing when they're talking about the political viability of continuing the war that is going to be on the mind of a lot of our senators and representatives, probably President Trump and his team as well. Now, one of the considerations that has been floated in recent days on Fox News, albeit, was the idea of President Trump just walking away. I think it was Laura Ingraham actually rolled that out. And we know President Trump watches Fox News a lot, so the idea that key host there is talking about just wrapping up the war and calling it a day is significant. They're kind of directly talking to the president. The Atlantic talked about this in a recent article where they said, quote, even some of Trump's closest allies privately acknowledged that he is in a bind. His choice, escalate the conflict and risk losing more American soldiers and depleting stockpiles of munitions while hurting Republicans' election chances this fall, or walk away now to cut his political losses while leaving Iran in a stronger strategic position than it has held in decades. Look, we talked about that at the very beginning of the war. We are trying to accomplish a lot just through air power alone, and it looked pretty viable pretty early on that we might see a declaration of victory and walking away and then trying to convince everyone that what you're seeing is actually a win. Maybe point to the degradation of the Iranian military or setting back their nuclear program. I don't exactly know what it would look like. I personally would not agree.
That's the thing. We could have done that a long time ago, and we didn't. Because now it's obvious that, people are asking. I thought we obliterated their military. Like, why are they still firing? I mean, they were still firing on fucking Jordan and Kuwait today. Like, They haven't agreed to anything. Contrary to what Trump has been putting in the news, they are not talking to Trump. Like they don't care to talk to him. They're like, whatever, we're just gonna keep on firing. It doesn't matter what you say or do. But Trump tells us that one, that he's working with them and they're begging for a deal, and then two, that they were militarily defeated. Like it doesn't. You could have like day one, basically, after they killed the Ayatollah, after they blew up and did all their bombing runs, blew up the girls' school. Day one, you could have said, all right, we did what we set out to do. It could have been, the weekend adventure that they wanted, that Trump, was told that it was going to be, not a 6-month adventure that it has been. And gone through and said, oh, we killed their leadership. We expect things to change. We're going to take this as a W. That was their one chance. That was the United States military one chance to walk away from this and come away and look at it, like, leave it looking like we actually did something significant. But they didn't do that. They stayed in it for the long run, and here we are. And anything they say now will not be believed. That's why this war is completely unpopular, because we all see what's happening.
We could declare victory and walk away, but it sounds like that is something that the president might be considering. And
you can't do it now.
I think it probably is.
You can't do it now.
Now, in that same article, they say 2 people close to the president told us that Trump may at some point consider that sort of exit, but for now, despite the growing costs, he's continuing to fight. And that is where we sit right now. There were threats made earlier today of large strikes incoming.
We're going to get into like hundreds of billions of dollars spent on this war, not just $130 billion.
Not just Iran. The Houthis might now be in the target block as well. So while support for the war continues to fade, and I think it's worth paying attention to that. I still think public support matters for any of this stuff, or it should matter, maybe is a good way of putting it. And it's worth tracking that as this war plays out, especially as we all have our sons and daughters in harm's way. I think the public sentiment is incredibly
people are dying for nothing. They're dying for fucking protecting Israel. That's it.
Term, what I would expect to see here is a continuation of strikes, probably a hope, if you will, that the Iranian will to fight will fade faster.
And then when they do fucking die protecting the nation of Israel by manning U.S. defense systems in Jordan, what does the Trump administration do? They reallocate their fucking death and say, oh, they died actually like in overseas encounters or whatever they call it. They didn't die in the war. No, Iran bombed them specifically because they knew that they were involved in the defense of the United States military bases there. Like that's why they died. They died in the war, but you're going to reallocate their death, the death of a U.S. soldier, and say that no, they just died, like they fell off a ladder or something. Like it's ridiculous.
Than the rest of the American support, but hard to tell, right? We don't.
It's a fucking disgrace
right now. From what we can tell, outside looking in, it looks like they are ready to dig in for the long haul. So personally, the idea that
anybody that wants to defend like whatever the fuck Trump's been doing with this whole war, like it's just fucking disgraceful. They're fucking lying to themselves.
I think is a pretty big gamble, and I don't know that I'm not very optimistic that's actually going to happen, but that looks to be the short-term option right now. But as this continues to drag on, again, the political costs are probably increasing. Most polls show that. It seems like it is putting the president and his team in a bind as they try to figure out a way out of this.
This war has turned into Trump's COVID handling in 2020. I guess you give him the reins and you have to expect that he's going to royally fuck everything up. Like, because he's a fucking moron.
But that's all we got for now. Thanks for watching, and I'll see y'all next time.
Like that. That is where we are. We're repeating 2020. It's a brand new 2020, guys. COVID's skyrocketing downwards is what Trump said initially of the numbers of cases. This war will only last 4 to 6 weeks. And here we are.
School, and it was ran by the Israelis. And let me tell you what.
It was ran by the Israelis. I forgot he had it.
Former Border Patrol Chief Greg Bovino confirmed that Israel has been training ICE, Border Patrol, and all U.S. law enforcement since pre-9/11.
They sent me to a VIP security school, and it was ran by the Israelis. And let me tell you
so
what.
IDF actually does work with Border Patrol.
No shit, yes.
Because I've always heard that.
Well, it was that school was for all law enforcement. It was They put it on. It was Israeli. They contracted with Israeli instructors.
During that interview, he was referring to a time when he was a young agent with the Border Patrol Tactical Unit from around 2000 to 2001. Beginning in the 1990s and expanding rapidly after 9/11, U.S. federal agencies like Border Patrol and ICE regularly contracted Israeli security firms or sent leadership squads directly to Israel. Critics say that using a foreign military or intelligence apparatus to train domestic civil servants is fundamentally
Who are they training on, by the way? Like, who would they train on? That's crazy.
corrupt, as it swaps constitutional public safety practices with aggressive wartime tactics. This framework treats the American public how an occupying force would treat a hostile population, eroding constitutional rights and local accountability. And we've seen countless examples of this with ICE and CBP's behavior, especially under the Trump administration. As political pushback has grown, the pipeline has shifted heavily to the private sector, limiting transparency even more and making it difficult for the public to monitor the extent of foreign influence. Former Border Patrol
I mean, it's exactly what I would expect, yes. Bad slide. Also bad slide. Damn. Amateur hour over here. Yeah, the yellow cube, which is technically the yellow line that Israel uses, is moving constantly. And it's like we're not paying attention to it. And now it's pretty much where everybody in Gaza lives. The snipers will probably take these shots, as they have in the past.
This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org. I'm Amy Goodman. We end today's show in the occupied West Bank, where Israeli settlers torched 2 mosques over the weekend in the latest wave of violent attacks on several Palestinian towns.
They torched 2 mosques.
This is a religious crime. It is a moral crime in all. They are thieves, and you can call them with all the bad descriptions because there is no human on the planet that torches a religious place.
This comes as Israeli military forces Saturday detained over 70
he said
Palestinians.
Call them a bad word? He's the bad guy now. Oh, yeah, they torched the fucking mosque.
Across the occupied West Bank. The arrest and attack on the mosque followed the killing of at least 4 Palestinians in the town of Tal Friday, when Israeli settlers and soldiers opened fire on residents attempting to protect their homes. 2 Israeli soldiers were also killed. Francesca Albanese, the UN Special Rapporteur on the occupied Palestinian territories, has condemned the intensifying Israeli settler attacks as, quote, pogroms against defenseless civilians, unquote. We're joined now by Mariam Barghouti, Palestinian writer and journalist based in Ramallah. Joining us today, though, from Amman, Jordan. She recently addressed the United Nations Security Council on the crisis in the West Bank. Thanks so much for joining us again, Mariam. If you can start off by describing what happened this weekend in the West Bank.
Thank you, Amy. So what we saw over the weekend was an intensified campaign against Palestinians by the Israeli army and Israeli settlers, which should not be seen as separate at this point. The excuse and the justification that the Israeli military and officials such as Benjamin Netanyahu are using was the killing of 2 Israeli settlers that were in the West Bank raiding a Palestinian village or town. Now, if you peruse through Hebrew media, you'll think that they were Israelis that were simply hiking and were killed by Palestinians, when in fact they were settlers raiding the town of Tel, southeast of Nablus, north of the West Bank, and a Palestinian man was able to disarm one of the settlers and confront them. Now, the Israeli army responded by killing at least 4 Palestinians and then expanded in what is a familiar pattern of collective punishment, targeting the entirety of the West Bank, targeting former detainees in specific, torturing them, ensuring checkpoints are closed, meaning Palestinians don't have access to life-saving resources such as hospitals, and they're targeting just daily infrastructure. So we're seeing what is happening is Palestinians are being imprisoned essentially in their own towns and villages, and then attacked by Israeli forces and armed Israeli settlers.
86, at least, according to Al Jazeera, Palestinians have been killed in the occupied West Bank since the beginning of the year, including 20 fatally shot by Israeli settlers. The United Nations notes hundreds more have been wounded. We have about a 4-second delay with you responding, Mariam. But talk about your message to the UN Security Council.
Yes, so what we're seeing is that there is an escalation of killing Palestinians. This comes also in light of the impunity that Israel has received in Gaza. Now, in Gaza, you have the Israeli army, but Israeli settlers serve as an addendum to Israeli military practices. So we're not just seeing 86 Palestinians killed since the start of the year. We've seen more than 1,000 killed in the last 2 years alone. And this comes with an expansionist project. So the issue right here is territory, and it is being enforced and taken over forcibly through these violent attacks that create a hostile environment for Palestinians where simply their presence becomes unsustainable, because it means recalibrating just daily routine to calculate for Israeli violence.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu ordered a major security operation in the West Bank following Friday's attacks, reinforcing military units, canceling leave for troops. He is also coming to meet with President Trump tomorrow in Washington, D.C. Can you talk about, as you peruse the media from the Arabic language media, Hebrew language media, U.S. media, what people get most wrong about what's happening in the West Bank right now, and talk about how it compares to Gaza?
I think what is happening right now in the West Bank cannot be divorced to what is happening in Gaza, as well as places like Jerusalem. Now, what we are seeing is another form of genocide and ethnic cleansing. In Gaza, it is the complete obliteration of cities and towns and annihilation of families off the registry. And in the West Bank, it is taking different methods and forms, and that is through the use of the Israeli settler, military, and judicial system. Now, together, what they serve is what Israel wants to do is the Greater Israel Project. Now, it brings us back to the fact that this is a colonial regime that is engaging in crimes against humanity. How those crimes look may differ, but in the end, they serve the same purpose, and that is ethnically cleansing Palestinians in order to build this greater Israel in the region.
In your address to the UN Security Council, Mariam Barghouti, you talked about the dangers journalists like yourself face. If you can talk about the attacks on media workers, of course, we know that over 250 journalists, media workers have been killed by Israel in the last years since October 2023 in Gaza. And you also spoke about the targeted attacks on military personnel. We'll end with this question.
Yes, so the Israeli regime is targeting journalists, killing them in Gaza on the one end, likewise in Lebanon. And in the West Bank, what we're seeing is targeting them through mass detention as well as terrorizing campaigns. That is targeting their family members, invading their homes, violating their sources, as well as gathering information that should not be accessible to them. So they are targeting not just the personnel, but they are targeting the information. And this is one of the most dangerous aspects, because if we are unable to document, then the entire issue of testimony falls into debate. And this is where we are today, where someone welcomed to the United States that was presented for the crimes that were instigated by him and the entirety of the Israeli regime.
On Saturday, a group of Israel NGOs, including B'Tselem and Breaking the Silence, issued a joint statement saying, "We call on the international community to act now. Immediate pressure on Israel is required to stop further attacks, prevent pogroms and further killings, and ensure the protection of Palestinians in accordance with Israel's obligations under international law." We have 20 seconds, Mariam, if you can elaborate on this.
I think this time is not just for action, but to ensure genuine obstruction of Israeli capacity to continue in its crimes. It is not normal nor okay that a country.
I mean, this is escalating like this. What we're watching with what's happening with the West Bank right now is since the weekend, right? Early in the weekend, it was escalating just since the last time that we streamed, and it's still happening.
Is treated as a normal state. It is not normal to continue sustaining it with military aid. At a bare minimum, just obstruct its capacity to target human lives.
Mariam Barghouti, want to thank you for being with us, Palestinian writer and journalist based in the West Bank, speaking to us from Amman, Jordan. She recently addressed the UN Security Council on the crisis in the West Bank. That does it for our show. Happy birthday to Sarah Nasser. I'll be in Martha's Vineyard Friday night, July 31st, to speak after a screening of Steal the Story, Please in Vineyard Haven. Then on to Madison, Wisconsin, and Chicago.
I'm doing the world tour.
And to my hometown of Bayshore on September 17th. I'm Amy Goodman.
All right.
Who was here?
Oh, damn it. I got more from the funeral. Hold on.
Mr. Prime Minister, you too have been a dear friend of mine for 30 years. It's an honor to have you. And Lindsey would have been blown away that you took this long journey with your beautiful bride to be here today. He loved you. He loved the state of Israel. He loved the people of Israel. Under your leadership, Israel has been one of America's most consistent and loyal allies. He was never shy to say it, to the day he passed. And just as President Trump has been Israel's strongest friend in the history of the White House, you know, the two partners aligned together. Lindsey was that friend to Israel in the United States Senate. I see Prime Minister.
What the fuck, man?
Watching. I don't want to ever fall asleep on live television.
This today? Oh, this was Effie Lindsey Graham's funeral. He's just a sleepy guy. 2 minutes of him sleeping? Come on. Decoding Fox News. I guess, you know, this is like one of those, if I have to watch it. This is like what this whole account, Juliet's whole account is if I have to watch it, so do you. This dude's just always asleep. Okay, enough of that. Yeah, everything's going great though. A video of the downing of an invading Saudi drone by the Yemeni army's air defense. Yeah, that's still happening. Oh man, I hope we didn't pay for that one. Probably did. Oh yeah, here's Dimitri Lascaris.
The U.S. has evacuated King Faisal Air Base in Jordan after an F-15 hangar was destroyed. Muwafaq Salti Air Base has also been evacuated after it was rendered mostly out of service. The U.S. Al Udaid Air Base in Qatar is completely empty as seen on satellite imagery today. And in fact, you've had people like Smotrich, this war criminal finance minister of Israel, telling the media there that this is a pretty juicy situation for Israel because Iran is being struck night after night, but it's the United States that is bearing the cost in terms of blood and in terms of treasure, whereas Israel is not having to take any of the devastation being delivered by missile and drone strikes from Iran. Well, I can assure you, my friends, that that situation is not going to last much longer. Iran appears to be successfully pushing U.S. military bases further and further westward and closer to Israel. Well, what is going to happen then? Israel is a pipsqueak of a country, and the Iranian military knows where all of the major military facilities of Israel are, and so Israel is about to become an even more target-rich environment. I think it's inevitable that the genocidal entity is going to get whacked, and whacked very hard indeed. The U.S. has...
That's a decent analysis, in my opinion. I think that's what we're seeing is Iran, basically light up as much of Kuwait as they can, because that is a basically turned into a United States military base. Well, we are trying to join armies with Israel, so Iran sees two birds with one stone. Yeah, I mean, and they can pound the GCC, the other Muslim nations, as much as they want. But eventually, the interest of profits is going to arise, right? And the alliance with the United States was always, we'll have our military military camps here in your countries, so that we can be here to protect you, and protect your assets and all this delicious oil in your refineries and everything. Well, it turns out it's not working. It's not going as planned. So if Iran can get those nations to basically turn against the United States or eliminate the military bases that are there and push the United States back towards the western areas, towards Israel, then it'll be an easier way to definitely do the two birds with one stone. Once you push United States assets back into Israel, which there are a lot of U.S. assets in, like Ben Gurion Airport right now, then you'll be able to blow up the U.S. and Israel all at the same time. So not necessarily because the two militaries have joined, but because it was always like that. It was always our unsinkable aircraft carrier.
Okay. And the way that Ronald Reagan responded to this strike is what a lot of labor historians point to.
We gotta watch some history here.
Arguably the most important strike in American history was the Professional Air Traffic Controllers Organization strike. Okay. And the way that Ronald Reagan responded to this strike is what a lot of labor historians point to as like the beginning of the end for unions in America. The crazy thing about this is that the Air Traffic Controllers Union had pretty good reason to believe that Reagan would support them, because he literally wrote them a f***ing letter saying that he would when he was campaigning.
Did he offer that to any other unions?
From my understanding, this was pretty unique.
Okay.
The Air Traffic Controllers Union was on the verge of striking, so this was like sort of something that was in the air.
No pun intended.
To make it even more hypocritical, Ronald Reagan actually got his start in politics.
I enjoy this series.
A union head. He was the head of the Screen Actors Guild of America, and he led the first ever major strike against Hollywood studios in 1960. After they voted to strike, Reagan famously went to
I need a captive. Oh wait, guys, you are my captive audience. All right, I'm just going to do this next time.
Rose Garden, and gave a speech where he basically called them criminals. He said, if you don't come back to work within 48 hours, you'll be terminated. And not only that, but he threatened to permanently ban them from any kind of government work.
Why'd he go to such a fanciful location?
I don't know. Dude. Isn't that funny? They're like, it's the weirdest place he could have done it.
He's like, I've drawn this bath for you.
Yeah.
You're fired.
I know, right? And so he ended up firing more than 11,000 air traffic controllers. Most of them were veterans. They had no other transferable skills. So when Reagan fired them, he was essentially damning them to a life of poverty. And that's what happened. A bunch of them became homeless. A bunch of them committed suicide. Divorce rates really went up because they weren't able to support their families. After this happened, it became the norm to fire and permanently replace workers. This is the number of strikes that happen year over year. So you can see in 1980, the number of strikes.
Yeah, we're gonna do a massive Zoom call, and I'm gonna be doing this shit with a ruler and a whiteboard. No, I'll just. Yeah, I know. I can do. Yeah, I just do what I'm doing right now.
This blue line is the share of income going to the top 10%
But yeah,
of workers.
if this was 2020, we'd be on Zoom.
The orange line is union density, so number of people in a union. So you can see as the number of people.
I'll have you know, when I fired up Twitch in 2020, I had no fucking idea how any of this shit worked. Like these fucking widgets and like the fucking like the alerts and all this stuff. This shit, like, oh my god, it's such a challenge to learn. And then like not just to learn, but to like watch videos that are like, you know, like full dummy proof videos that you still don't understand what the fuck they're talking about. But eventually, you know, I became a good learner.
Going in a union go up, the amount of money going to the top 10% goes down. It's literally a mirror.
Girl math.
Girl math, baby. The problem is that the way that we do unions in America is flawed. So we have enterprise bargaining, which basically means that every company needs to unionize on its own. So enterprise bargaining is really slow, it's ineffective, and it's actually dangerous for the workers. Luckily, there's a better way to do it. There's something called sectoral bargaining. Basically what it means is that instead of unionizing company by company, you unionize an entire industry together, okay? So instead of like Starbucks unionizing or Pete's Coffee unionizing, you have the entire cafe industry unionized together and then bargain collectively with all the CEOs of these companies with the government as a middleman.
Why don't we do that?
This is the way it's already done in France and Sweden, and it works really well. There's lower income inequality in those countries. And we've actually already tried this kind of system in America. California did it with fast food workers. It led to higher wages and employment remained unchanged. Arguably the most important strike.
I think we're on to something here. Yeah, it's rigged.
It was a conspiracy hiding in plain sight. It was a conspiracy hiding in plain sight. That's me, shopping for this burning Godzilla figure from the classic flick Godzilla vs. Destroyer. For my 3-year-old kid, obviously. I saw that Amazon had it for $26.98. Then I checked Walmart just to make sure I was getting the best deal. $26.98, the same oddly specific price. Huh. A few weeks later, the same toy suddenly cost $27.99 at Amazon, $27.99 at Walmart, and $27.99 at GameStop. Matching low prices, moving in tandem. Something was off. You wouldn't see this kind of thing in brick and mortar retail stores. They always try to outdo one another. So I decided to keep shopping. As research. Soon I was finding strange, correlating prices.
As research.
This pack of toilet paper, $8.44 at Amazon, Walmart, and a few other stores. A few weeks later, it's $8.96 in all locations. The soccer goal for kiddos, $24.97 across the board. Weird numbers, probably no accident. And it turns out it wasn't. So I did some digging and found myself staring down what appears to be an intricate scheme to rig the economy, raid your wallet, and squeeze small businesses. And who's behind it? Amazon.
There has never been a company as powerful as Amazon.
You're offering the lowest price, and it is the lowest price, but what people don't know, it would be lower if you weren't doing what you're doing. It's pure coercion.
You rarely see it this explicitly. This is smoking gun stuff.
Amazon completely dominates online shopping in the US and much of the world, with an image built on affordability and convenience. But accusations are growing that what feels like cost savings is actually the opposite, and they're doing it all with this one simple trick.
We are going to take those orders and we are going to pack them in bubble mailers to cardboard boxes so we can get those products safely to you.
Molson Hart makes educational toys through his company Viahart. He's been selling on Amazon since 2014, and he runs his business in part out of his warehouse in Texas.
This is our best-selling product, Brain Flakes. They're interlocking plastic discs which teach kids dexterity and spatial thinking, and you can make some really cool designs.
I reach out to Hart because he's no middleman. He invents and designs his products, arranges their manufacturing, and then he distributes them.
These are many of our Tiger Heart stuffed animals, and some of our designs, I think, are the best in the world. So this is the world's best armadillo plush.
You'd think that owning the entire process from conception to naming to wrapping the thing, it would mean that he determines the pricing, right?
So one time, Brain Flakes, which is our bestseller, got suspended for having a lower price on the Target marketplace.
At the time, Molson was selling brain flakes at Target for $19.98. Price listed on Amazon, $19.99.
What the fuck?
A 1 cent discrepancy that set off a rush to avoid financial disaster.
You're scrambling with your team, you're on Slack, you're shooting emails, you're making calls, you're doing everything you can to get back up. It's horrible. It's a horrible experience.
This is the standard occurrence with Amazon. The company schemes to have the lowest prices have been known under various names: price parity policy, fair market
For one
price
fucking
guarantee among
penny?
them. But it all boils down to a few basic alleged principles. First, it's what we call third-party coercion.
What Amazon does is it reviews and scans and surveys all the other platforms besides Amazon, like Walmart's platform, Target's online platform.
That's Rob Bonta, Attorney General of California, who has spent years investigating Amazon. And please note, the following are my words, not his. Think Amazon's pricing algorithms as Skynet, the all-seeing AI in the Terminator movies. When it sees competition, it takes action to, well, terminate it.
They flag it when the price for a product on Amazon is lower on another platform, like Target or Walmart. And then they encourage the wholesaler to raise the price to match Amazon's price so that there is not a lower price out in the market that's lower than Amazon.
Why don't they just fucking lower their
so
own
that raises a few
price?
Questions. Primarily, what does encourage mean? Here's where the aforementioned smoking gun comes in the form of emails discovered during Bonta's investigation.
Amazon saw that Levi's khakis were being provided on Walmart's online platform at a lower price than on Amazon. Amazon was selling it at $29.99, and on Walmart it was a little over $25 to $26.99. Amazon flagged that for Levi's and said, we need to get this resolved. They use words like that. This needs to be resolved. Levi's worked with Walmart and got the price raised so that it was the higher price of $29.99 instead of having a lower price.
So what does Amazon do to these vendors that spook them so much? The punishment at the center of the lawsuits involves Amazon cutting off access to what's known as the buy box. You know, that box on the right with the add to cart and buy now buttons?
That's a special feature that exists on Amazon's platform where tons of sales are made. It's basically the recommended item when there's multiple choices.
You can make the argument that these little yellow and orange buttons are the most powerful tool on the internet. Essentially, Amazon is designed so that if you don't have the buy box on an item, it's almost impossible for anyone to add your stuff to their cart.
If you lose the buy box on a best-selling product, that can mean not being profitable that month or even that year.
One vendor shared with us that they lost 80% of their sales when they were taken out of the buy box.
A merchant knows that getting disqualified from the buy box is kiss of death.
Steve Berman led the biggest antitrust settlement in U.S. history and has a number of active suits against Amazon.
So when Amazon says, if you don't change your price, you're out, they change their price.
So why not just say screw it and take a hike, walk away from Amazon? Well, to quote the marketing campaign for the infamous 1998 American Godzilla movie, size matters.
They are so dominant, they capture 70% of sales and more than 2/3 of major product categories.
This is Stacy Mitchell, a researcher and author of the book Big Box Swindle.
It controls the infrastructure that the modern economy runs on.
All told, Amazon owned about 4 out of every $10 spent online last year. Around half of Americans have Prime accounts, and in 2024, a poll found that about 3/4 of Americans had bought something on Amazon over the preceding year. So the obvious move would be to just lower prices on Amazon instead of raising them elsewhere, right?
You can't, because it's more expensive to sell on Amazon than it is off Amazon almost all the time. So if you lower the price on Amazon to what it is off Amazon, you end up losing money on Amazon.
That's a phenomenon that can be explained by another alleged Amazon special. Let's call them captive vendor fees.
10 years ago, sellers were paying on average in the US about a 20% cut. So every dollar in sales, they gave 20 cents to Amazon. Today, that's up to 50%. Half of every sale right off the top going to Amazon.
When I first started selling on Amazon, there was just what you called a fulfillment fee. And they took 15% of the price of the product. Today, there are fees for reviews, fees for advertising, long-term storage fees, aged inventory fees. You have, we don't have enough stock in our warehouses, fees.
In a competitive market, a truly competitive market, what would happen is that you would, as a seller, you would raise your prices on Amazon to absorb those fees, and you would have lower prices on cheaper platforms. And consumers would see those high prices on Amazon and they would start to shop on other platforms, and we began to get a more competitive marketplace. Amazon would feel that
the free market
pressure, and
provides.
they would lower their fees so that you could
until
lower
the free
prices.
market says no.
That doesn't happen.
Amazon doesn't just track prices of competitors like Walmart and Target. At this point, we've been told by sellers that a lower listing anywhere could trigger punishment.
One day, I was looking at our Brainflakes pirate ship and it just said high price on it. What is this? This is obviously killing sales. Imagine you go into a store and then the store representative says something like, okay, well, you can buy this, but just warning you now, the price at this location is really high and you might be able to find a lower price somewhere else. And so our sales cratered. We scoured the internet. Was it Walmart? Is it Target? Is it Temu? Is it eBay? How is this happening?
As it turns out, none of the above. The product got dinged for being cheaper on Viaheart's own website, something that hadn't happened before.
So what we did in the wake of learning about that is we just raised all the prices on our website, despite having way lower costs on our website, and we don't need the prices to be that high there.
But what about the 12 million or so Amazon products that the company sells directly? It figures that Amazon isn't going to punish itself for having a higher price than other websites, right? Turns out the same principles apply, and there are a few approaches, all of which still shift the risk to the supplier. In fact, in some cases, Amazon actually guarantees itself a certain level of profit.
If it discovers that a supplier's product is sold for less on another site, and Amazon then has to lower its own price to meet that lower price, it then goes back to the supplier and says, okay, I had to lose margin. You're now going to write me a check to ensure that I make my minimum margin. And so suppliers have to write Amazon a check to make up for that difference. And what suppliers, of course, figure out is they don't want to write Amazon checks. The better way from their point of view to go is to force those other retailers to keep their prices high.
Now, let's be clear. Amazon does sometimes lower prices itself, but that's really only in service of raising them down the line. And this is what's known as algorithmic coercion. Another one of Amazon's alleged tactics to inflate market prices. It's when Skynet really kicks in.
Amazon is monitoring prices across the web, and if it detects that another retailer lowers its price, it immediately matches that price. So what these other retailers' algorithms learn is they are never gonna win any more customers by lowering their prices. And what they do instead is decide, well, if I can't win any more customers, I might as well raise my prices and at least I'll make more profit margin on every sale that I do make. And what then happens is that Amazon sees that price rise and it matches the price hike. And over time, we start to see prices across the online market are being inflated.
Record profits for all companies across the board.
That's ugly. Data analytics from SmartScout found that inflation on Amazon outpaced national inflation since 2022, and inflation hasn't exactly been low.
We're talking about a cumulative overcharge in the tens of billions of dollars, more than that.
Amazon's price fixing is at the center of a whole bunch of major lawsuits, including one from the Federal Trade Commission and one from the state of California. Berman, meanwhile, is the lead counsel on a class action lawsuit against Amazon for this stuff. It could be the largest class action lawsuit in American history, worth tens of billions of dollars. Amazon has been fighting the lawsuits tooth and nail, but especially for independent businesses, it does feel like the fix is in.
These are just small vendors, mom and pops, somebody with an idea, somebody with a product, somebody with a dream of starting a business who need a place to meet consumers. They can't reach the market unless they're on Amazon.
Is there a free market?
That's insane, man.
It's a lot of like these large, powerful corporations making bad decisions for the entire marketplace, arguing that it's a free market. But in reality, the sellers and the small businesses that sell on those corporations, through those corporations, don't have the ability to set their own prices. So in that way, it's not really a free market.
Opinions vary on what should be done about all this should Amazon be found guilty in one or more of these lawsuits. But it's not an unprecedented situation. Back in 2020, the European Union began an investigation into how Amazon distributed the buy box. In 2022, Amazon agreed to treat all sellers on the continent the same when it comes to doling out those precious buttons. But as one executive wrote in an email that got unearthed for Berman's lawsuit, the expectations have not changed for US sellers.
I know Amazon makes claims that they've shifted. If Amazon has discontinued the unlawful conduct, then they should have no problem agreeing to a preliminary injunction. But they're opposing our motion for a preliminary injunction.
So, if Amazon is found guilty, it's going to take more than promises to get it to stop driving up prices.
We can seek civil penalties. We want them to disgorge their ill-gotten gains from this unlawful practice where they padded their profits by breaking the law.
I think that there needs to be a court order stopping these practices, and there needs to be a period of time where the court oversees Amazon's conduct.
This is
We
why
could also potentially
Bezos
see
was
a
at the
breakup
White
of the
House.
company. That would mean basically restructuring Amazon into multiple
All the
companies.
tech nerds
Our
were at the
goal
fucking
with
White House,
our
man.
educational products is not just to make money. Our goal is actually to put them in as many children and in some cases adults' hands as possible because we want to have a big positive impact. Amazon generates massive amounts of money, and so there needs to be a better sense of when enough is enough.
In the end, I didn't wind up buying the Godzilla toy at all. Turns out, the kid changed his mind and he wanted this King Ghidorah statue right here. It was 1807 at Amazon and 1807 at Walmart. Thanks for watching. Let us know what kind of stories you want to see in the comments here.
Wait, hold on, what?
In the end, I didn't wind up buying the Godzilla toy at all. Turns out, the kid changed his mind and he wanted this King Ghidorah statue right here. It was 1807 at Amazon and 1807 at Walmart. Thanks for watching.
You know, like, the argument would be, oh, well, screw Amazon and then just buy it at Walmart. And then you're like, okay, well, I also hate Walmart. The illusion of choice. You give your money to one billionaire or the other one. Yeah, speaking of.
Tesla car next year will probably be 90% capable of autopilot. Like, so 90% of your miles could be on auto. You know, for sure highway travel. So we're probably only a month away from having autonomous driving, at least for highways and for relatively simple roads. I mean, my guess for when we will have full autonomy is about 3 years.
3 years.
Approximately 3 years.
Hell
if you
yeah.
think about fully autonomous vehicles, which have passed through regulatory approvals,
this is
have
year
passed
after
through
year
in-city
after
driving
year
in
after
traffic
year.
conditions, how far do you think, from a time frame perspective, we are for that becoming reality?
Particularly highways that are that have barriers, so that you don't have pedestrians. That's also relatively easy, and like a Model S and Model X at this point can drive autonomously with greater safety than a person right now.
Yeah. My point is, when does it get to be where you don't need to be sitting behind a vehicle? I can have my 75-year-old mother who doesn't speak any English or doesn't drive be able to be transported from point A to point B by just sitting in a car by herself and being taken?
I think we're basically less than 2 years away from complete autonomy. I think we're still on track for being able to go cross country from LA to New York by the end of the year, fully autonomous.
Okay, so a car, by the end of the year, you're saying someone's going to sit in a Tesla without touching the steering wheel, tap in New York, off it goes.
Yeah.
Won't have to ever touch the wheel by the end of 2017.
Yeah, essentially.
Yeah.
November or December of this year, we should be able to go from all the way from a parking lot in California to a parking lot in New York. No controls touched at any point during the.
Well, you'd have to charge the fucking car.
With self-driving, I think probably by end of next year.
There's 3 more minutes of this? Fuck that. All right.
Hey everyone, I am a one-man operation, and I need all the support I can get. I want to thank everyone who has become a patron. Your support means the world and is essential for me to be able to produce more videos. There's exclusive content on my Patreon
Elon Musk,
as well,
mass
murderer. Love you all. Take
Question
care.
mark.
In June 2025, a New York Times investigation uncovered the playbook by which Elon Musk sought to shut down U.S. aid. Speaking to someone familiar with the strategy, Musk's team searched for what they termed viral waste, meaning examples of government spending that could be easily mocked.
Doge and OMB also found that there was about to be 50 million taxpayer dollars that went out the door to fund condoms in Gaza.
Yeah, that's not Gaza in Palestine, by the way, it turns out. That's a different Gaza.
That is a preposterous waste of taxpayer money.
Despite the fact that USAID staff informed their political appointee for public affairs that the Gaza in question was Gaza province, a part of Mozambique, President Donald Trump continued to assert that the Gaza in question was the Palestinian territory.
$50 million being sent to Gaza to buy condoms for Hamas. 50 million. And you know what's happened to them? They've used them as a method of making bombs.
The fucking dick bombs, man. They're dropping fucking condom bombs everywhere.
Dollars on condoms to Hamas.
Oh, now it's $100 million. Okay.
Mozambique would certainly be a more likely destination for condoms, as the country has one of the highest rates of HIV/AIDS deaths in the world. In April, the Wall Street Journal scrutinized the claim and estimated that $100 million would buy billions of condoms. But they weren't billions of condoms, and they weren't for Hamas, and they didn't go to the Gaza Strip, but to the province in Mozambique. Prior to the aid cuts, the entire country of Mozambique received some $850,000 for condoms to prevent HIV transmission. The year before, Gaza province received condoms worth $27,000. In the 3 years prior, the Middle East hadn't received any condoms from USAID. A senior Biden official who worked on Gaza aid issues told CNN the story was a lie. They are making shit up. In 2023, USAID delivered more than $7 million worth of male condoms total globally, with nearly 90% of them for Africa. The CNN report observed, Levitt was essentially claiming that the Biden administration had decided to provide more than 6 times the 2023 worldwide value of condoms to a single tiny territory that has about 2.1 million people, and that is in a region that usually does not receive condoms from the U.S.
To that end, I have created the brand new Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, which is headed by Elon Musk, who is in the gallery tonight.
How do I convey the despair associated with living in a time where the world's richest man led a government entity named after an internet meme that's reportedly responsible for hundreds of thousands of deaths and will, in time, lead to the deaths of millions of people?
We live in the stupidest fucking timeline.
In fact, certainly cause unnecessary suffering. I mean,
no.
No?
No.
So you don't buy the idea that anybody, to put it really crudely and simply, any kid in Africa died because of the suddenness with which...
0.
I just don't think that's right. If funding is cut off for antiretrovirals overnight and it just stops, then people will die when they don't have access to them.
Yes.
Last month, 11-year-old Kevin died.
Only if they cannot get funding for that. But what the GAZA Foundation has $50 billion.
Let's be practical. In many of these countries, USAID was the biggest funder, but I don't want to have an argument.
USAID was a political organization.
I actually have a lot of sympathy for the
No
change
shit,
of the aid
moron!
regime that the U.S. under the Trump administration has precipitated. However, I think the pace and the suddenness with which it happened will almost certainly have caused unnecessary suffering.
This was supposed to be a puff piece interview? Well, he's a fucking idiot. So, what was this, like, entertainment? And what is this, E? Like, I don't, what outlet is this?
I think that's totally false.
How could I ever...
I think that's totally false. Well, I'll tell you how to lose an argument. If you want to lose a debate, they start a sentence with "I think," because then that's your opinion. You're not stating a fact. You're stating an opinion. No matter what you put behind the "I think." So, you fucking dumbass. You think fucking a potato thinks more than this guy.
Stomach what this means for humanity and its future. How can I begin to discuss such profound degeneracy and immorality? I'm writing this while I've just rewatched the film Bugonia, which evoked in my mind the world's wealthiest people who have no empathy with humans.
You sick ape.
I'm not a sick ape.
You are a sick ape, but humans can't help the way they are.
0 died because
Well,
of
that's
dose.
what I that's what I would take issue with. Because
Zero people
I
died
hear,
because of dose.
I hear you loud and clear.
0.
You can keep saying 0. It's irrelevant.
Hear you loud and clear.
Obviously.
The conflict between those who seek to turn the tables on their overlords, in the film just the protagonist and his cousin, turns out to be an existential one. The parallels with the titans of AI and big tech, with Musk at its helm, and the fate of millions of people set to die, were quite palpable.
You said there was a 10 to 20% chance of killer robots wiping out humanity.
Yes.
So you sounded worried then.
In the long run, we're all dead, of course.
Atul Gawande gave an insightful interview to The New Yorker recently.
You first, man.
He was assistant administrator for global health at USAID, the U.S. Agency for International Development. He resigned when Elon Musk, who recently became a trillionaire after the SpaceX IPO, killed the agency that, according to a recent study published in the Lancet Medical Journal, saved more than 90 million lives between 2001 and 2021. The rendering of aid steeply declined after
he
February
is a white supremacist
2025,
after all, right?
when the agency was all but dissolved. Over the course of that year alone, Gawande says, many thousands died.
It's at minimum tens of thousands in 2025, and very likely hundreds of thousands.
While this may be difficult to comprehend or for some to believe, the enormous number of casualties becomes self-evident when confronted with the simple fact that tens of millions of people weren't assisted by U.S. aid last year that would have been otherwise. Many of them would have required life-saving assistance.
WHO estimates that where 80 million people were reached by emergency health services in 2024, that number in 2025 dropped by more than 50 million people. That included, for example, 14 million people who were victims of severe acute malnutrition. 2.5 million of them were children.
When you consider the infinitesimal cost of feeding starving children, you may even get angry when considering that Elon Musk, who has reportedly received tens of billions of dollars of government money for his companies, apparently felt it was wasteful.
We should launch this guy into orbit, just fucking minus the spacecraft. Just launch him into fucking orbit. Just fucking. I could probably uppercut him right now so hard he could get fucking launched into orbit.
To save them.
Like a peanut bar that gives you your calories for the day, distributed by community health workers.
Yeah, before all the work, no hair transplant. It was a good pause, yeah.
That the U.S. manufactured but was cut off. That cut the death rate to less than 1%.
Yeah, before the HGH bulky Tesla truck chest, yeah.
That's just one category.
It's cheap, easy to make, and even easier to use. A daily dose costs about $1.
Even by taking a minuscule proportion of the global food aid budget, they will have huge impact. Huge impact. We're not even asking for billions, but it will solve so much of the underlying useless death. So we got to do that now.
It's useless death.
Wasted life. Just totally wasted life for nothing.
Yes.
Because they don't have a bit of peanut butter with vitamins. What a waste.
We've had the lines shut down for 10 days, 415 children per hour that aren't getting the...
Again, I say it often, capitalism requires a poverty class. That's what this is. We're defunding the poverty class that is required to keep capitalism going. And it's insane that we just we exploit these people so that they can provide us our goodies. And then what we have done in the past is we recognize that we're exploiting them, and you can't really exploit them any further. They're the fucking the worst levels of poverty that you can be. So we created these programs like USAID to fix to make sure that they can still live, so that they can continue to be exploited. The imperialist nightmare, right? Capitalism. We don't see the way that capitalism affects people as badly inside of the United States. But once you take a step outside and you look at the world's poverty and you see the people that are living it, that the reason that they're living it is because their country, their continent, their communities are just heavily exploited by like fucking like chocolate manufacturers, by diamond manufacturers. And like it all fucking comes together, man. And like we just exploit them for fucking pennies on the pennies, fractions of pennies on the pennies, not even pennies on the dollar. And so, like, yeah, you have to have these programs if you want these people to live. But I guess if you don't want them to live, then you eliminate the programs and you eliminate the people. It's a long math genocide.
The life-saving food that they need is because these lines aren't running today.
Shipments
by eliminating these programs that we've had in
the
place.
other day turned around $1 million worth of peanuts from farmers, and 22 truckloads of whey powder had to be stopped. All of it translates very directly to lives lost.
Gowande provides a real-world example, not just theoretical, from his time in South Sudan. The New Yorker Radio Hour included audio from the clinical manager for the International Rescue Committee in the country.
This is a stop order, not from IRC, not from South Sudan. It's from where we are getting the funding that we should stop. And that order come from maybe the President of the United States.
You know, it was a complete shutdown. I then went and visited some of those facilities, and I connected with the sub-county chiefs. Their own records showed that they are measuring an overall 10-fold increase in child and adult deaths. You know, went from 42 deaths in those 7 sub-counties for children, for example, over 2 years, 2023 to 2024, and those deaths rose to 214 that they recorded.
Gowande articulates cogently the rationale behind cutting such assistance, namely a worldview of brutishness, pathological self-interest, and lack of humanity. The worldview, the actions that you see, are that you believe the world is an amoral, ruthless, Mad Max world of the dominators and the dominated, and it is woke to believe that we can come together and solve problems. It is naivete, and worse, it's a distraction from the fact that we're in a battle and the world is governed by those who are strong, dominating the weak. Gowande is pessimistic about reversing the damage already done.
We're at hundreds of thousands of dead, but it's going to be millions of deaths.
Gowande observes how Musk is sensitive to criticism of his moves.
I think that's the reason why Elon Musk, the same month he's been made a trillionaire, is screaming online and aloud at congressmen and others and responding to things that I put online, is because he believes he's going to be held accountable by history. Trump routinely asks publicly and reported privately about whether he's going to hell or not. And the anger that is so directed at those who
imagine having a guilty conscience,
public man-made death. The anger comes from
while doing all this shit
between what they want to think they are, world
fucking
dominators,
disgusting.
People who will be remembered in history as having done good. They can't countenance the image that is suggested by this, which is that they are monsters.
Curiously, Musk endorsed a tweet that sought to downplay his role in the demise of USAID, when he very publicly boasted of spending the weekend feeding the agency into the wood chipper in February 2025. He sacrificed going to some great parties in order to do so.
I have discussed with Trump the idea of a government efficiency commission.
Nice.
I think we need like a government efficiency commission. Would you agree that we need to take a look at government spending and and have perhaps a government efficiency commission. I think it would be great to just have a government efficiency commission that takes a look at these things. I'd be happy to help out on such a commission.
I'd love
if it were formed.
I will create a government efficiency commission tasked with conducting a complete financial and performance audit. Can't go on the way we are now.
He documented the genesis of his so-called government efficiency department down to the name.
Someone on the internet said, no, it should be the Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE. I'm like, that sounds great. So we just kind of made up a department.
During his tenure as head of the department,
Kind of made up a department that already fucking existed.
He updated the public on his work and took credit for much of its decisions. It is true, however, that the buck stops with Donald Trump, who is ultimately responsible for approving Musk's recommendations. As we heard from the aid worker in South Sudan, the decision was made by the president to cut the aid that kept her clinics open. Given the gravity of this decision and the deaths that this reportedly caused, history will not reflect kindly on those who cheered Musk on. These include Republican lawmakers Nancy Mace and Marjorie Taylor Greene. Musk set himself up for considerable embarrassment when he challenged his critics to name a single person who had died. Journalists and Gawande himself have since named many, but these are just individuals who are emblematic of a vast amount of suffering. Musk was particularly enraged with New York Times columnist Nicholas Kristof, who covered the fallout from aid cuts, particularly in Africa. In a Twitter post, he named several people who had died as a result. Musk accused Kristof of lying and called him utterly evil and utter piece.
The world's richest man is African. A white African. And at the same time, responsible. Will be historically responsible for the millions of deaths of Africans.
Piece of shit and liar, and in response to Kristof arguing that kids died unnecessarily when U.S. aid was abruptly dissolved, given that the agency saved a life every 10 seconds, Musk again called him an utter piece of shit and liar. The whole thing would seem tragically pointless if Musk had not even saved much money with his department.
Do you think you were successful?
We're a little bit successful. We were somewhat successful.
An analysis from the New York Times concluded that his department did not do what Mr. Musk said it would, reduce federal spending by $1 trillion before October. On Doge's watch, federal spending did not go down at all. It went up. The Times judged that 28 of the top 40 savings claims, including the largest claims posted on the department's website, were not real. One example trumps all the others. 2 Department of Defense contracts were listed as terminated, but they're alive and well. Together, these 2 false terminated.
Hold on, which ones?
But they're alive. 2 Department of Defense
one for information technology and one for aircraft maintenance. Yeah, see, that's the thing is, like, when he started getting into the DoD, they were like, cut him off.
Contracts were listed as terminated, but they're alive and well. Together, these
I think that's what this was about, really, like, is about Musk eliminating the competition for DoD contracts. That's really what I saw, at least.
Were bigger than 25,000 of Doge's other claims combined. There were a number of other errors in their accounting. Some canceled grants were double counted, contracts ended under Biden were claimed, and several contracts that were said to be terminated weren't. Sensitive as always to criticism, and perhaps embarrassed by his department's lack of progress, Musk bristled at the Treasury Secretary over an accusation that he hadn't delivered. It was April of 2025. From the book Regime Change by Maggie Haberman and Jonathan Swan, Scott Besson hit Musk where it hurt most. The emerging sense that he had vastly overpromised on what he could accomplish with Doge. Elon, are the savings $2 trillion? Besson sneered. $1 trillion? $100 billion? At that, Musk lost it. Fuck you, he said. What have you ever done? As Musk and Besant walked out of the Oval Office, they continued to snap at each other. Then the situation got physical. Musk lowered his shoulder into Besant, and there was a shove. Musk's Twitter followers, real or automated,
Let them fight.
relish in the news of suspended aid while denying that it's led to any deaths. Though it may be demoralizing to read the cheers for the suspension of aid and the hostility to poor nations and sick people, it's worth remembering that Twitter users are not reflective of society at large, and it's best to not use the site at all. According to a Pew survey from March of 2025, shortly after Musk gutted U.S. aid, an overwhelming majority of Americans, both Republican and Democrat, said they support providing medicine to developing countries. Slightly less support providing food and clothing, but still a substantial majority. Some Twitter users bemoan the debt that the U.S. incurs from providing this aid, but the cost is staggeringly low, as in substantially less than 1% of America's gross national income. It's difficult to argue with Christoph's view of the cost. Until Trump's second term, American aid cost just 23 cents for every $100 of gross national income
23
and
cents.
saved a life approximately once every 10 seconds. Seems like a bargain to me. Certainly it appears wiser than spending billions of dollars on a war with Iran. He continues, I say wiser because all this is not just about compassion, but also about self-interest. Aid money serves national security and protects us from diseases. I've noted that the current Ebola outbreak in Africa may have gotten out of control precisely because we
Yes,
cut aid
it's directly
spending in the
related.
region.
Yes.
Then a bunch of people have given examples of how them cutting the funding has led to the end of certain people's lives, like when they were in hospitals that didn't have any funding. And
This motherfucker
there's
probably
a
laughing
lot
about it when it
of
was
that
happening.
That you
Fuck
could
you.
point to say, right, if they had the money, they would have had the funding and they would have had that equipment in place, or maybe they wouldn't have. But here's the other thing. That's not discounting the fact that a lot of that money is fraud.
Yeah.
A lot of it. Like, it's not a little amount.
A lot. So the people need to die. They need to die. Got it. Yeah.
And the idea that you should let it go on because it's going to save lives, and there's
The
a bunch
fucking quarter billionaire over here.
of people that are stealing money. Okay, I see that argument, but why are we sending them money in the first place? Like, what's did we?
Are you a fucking moron?
Something to them? Do we owe them money? No? Okay, we're just being nice? Are you sure we're just being nice? Is there anybody profiting off of us being nice?
Sadly, critics of Musk still have to devote time and effort
Yeah, he
to
needs to
argue why
hang up the
spending a
mic. He needs to
negligible
hang
amount of
from a
government
mic,
money
bro.
for life-saving aid is not only good to do for the simple
Like-
fact that it saves lives,
Yeah.
they also have to argue
Delete the
why it's good
podcast,
for
please.
U.S. influence. Gowande says that for the first time, he saw workers from China Aid in South Sudan.
This is the first time I've seen this. There was someone from China Aid. You know, China has rebranded their agency in providing cooperation and assistance. They've now called it China Aid. And there was an official coming to visit to offer their capabilities.
Samantha Power, the last administrator for USAID, told PBS that the agency's seal became widely recognized around the world.
Like a Nike, a Coca-Cola, something that really
Yeah,
engendered
USAID
respect
was
and
highly
influence all
recognized,
around
yes.
the world, and destroying that. Why? When you commit soft power suicide, who is going to be the
I mean,
biggest
we also used USAID to like fucking like sponsor like rappers like in Cuba to rap about how like, you know, the Cuban regime's bad.
beneficiary? Of course, your largest geostrategic competitor, and that is China. The Lancet
When did this
estimated
happen?
that 14 million people would die, including 4.5 million kids under 5 by 2030. Boston University ran a tracker and documented 800,000 deaths. 92 million lives were saved between 2001 and 2021 because of the work USAID did in the world. And that's not propaganda. That's a peer-reviewed academic study that shows the good the taxpayer resources did. At the same time, I think Americans know intuitively it matters a lot when USAID buys $2 billion worth of American farm commodities, wheat and corn, and uses it to feed really hungry people.
It's difficult to argue that aid delivered by the U.S. government wasn't a positive
Dude, what is
public
happening
relations
here?
exercise. all while instilling a sense of trust and good favor for feeding children and treating diseases.
Maybe some people do loathe me. And that's probably true. I don't care. But the fact that, as you pointed out, 250 million people follow me is that I think a lot more people actually like me than don't.
Oh my God.
And I think a lot more people hate you and the media more than you realize.
He's a child. He's got a little baby brain, man. Nuh-uh. Everybody hates you. They don't hate me. Everybody loves me. Fucking. All right, well, that's it for me. I'm very, very mad right now. Threads literally exist to spite him. Good night, guys. You know, glad we could go down that path together. Thank you for being there.
Nobody needs anyone, they don't even just pretend. Johnny's in America. I'm afraid of Americans. I'm afraid of the world. I'm afraid I can't help it.
Alright guys, y'all have a good one.
Johnny wants to brain, Johnny wants to suck on a coke. Johnny wants a woman, Johnny wants to think of a joke. Johnny's in America, Johnny looks up at the stars. Johnny combs his hair and Johnny wants pussy and cars. Johnny's in America. Johnny's in America.